Have you ever wondered who Taylor Swift's father, aka Scott Kingsley Smith, is? Stay with me over the next couple of minutes and allow me to truly open your eyes just a little bit, taking you down a rabbit hole you never thought about digging into in the first place. Scott Swift entered into the financial business by becoming a stockbroker. He actually established the Swift Group, and we'll get to them here in a moment. But the Swift Group was a financial advisory group that is part of Merrill Lynch. This is the most important part, okay? And did you know that when Taylor sought to pursue her career in music, Scott relocated his company to Nashville, where he works as a top advisor and first vice president? And if anybody would like me to do a video on Taylor and her shady affiliations with UMG, just let me know in the comment section. But right now for this video, we're going to be primarily focused on Merrill Lynch, and then Scott Swift's affiliation with Merrill Lynch as well. But as you can see, Merrill Lynch & Co. is the former name of a prominent Wall Street investment firm. Since its acquisition by Bank of America in 2009, we'll get to why that's an important date right there. It has become known simply as Merrill and operates as a wealth management division of Bank of America. Now, this is one of the most important parts, okay? Prior to its acquisition by Bank of America, the company was a leading player in the subprime mortgage market, which collapsed in 2007. And as you can see, it was also acquired by Bank of America in 2009 in the wake of the 2008 financial crisis. You see where I'm going with this? In 2006, BlackRock just so happened to acquire Merrill Lynch Investment Management, expanding its retail and international presence. And in 2008, we'll get to why this is important here in a second. Amidst the financial crisis, the head of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York asked BlackRock to analyze Bear Stearns' mortgage-backed securities assets and determine their value. As we should all know, BlackRock plays a key advisory role to institutions across the globe seeking to navigate the financial crisis. And that's where we get to Mr. John Alexander Thane, right? John is an American financial executive and investment banker. He was president and co-CEO of Goldman Sachs, and then CEO of the New York Stock Exchange. Thane then became the last chairman and CEO of Merrill Lynch & Co. before its merger with Bank of America. He was also designated to become president of Global Banking, Securities, and Wealth Management at the newly combined company, but resigned on January 22, 2009. Ken Lewis, CEO of Bank of America, reportedly forced Thane to step down after several controversies, such as the losses at Merrill Lynch, which proved to be far larger than previously estimated, and the award of huge executive bonuses. Now, like I just showed you, right, John was the COO of Goldman Sachs, right? Goldman Sachs was criticized for allegedly misleading its investors and profiting from the collapse of the mortgage market during the 2007-2018 financial crisis. This led to investigations from the United States Congress and the United States Department of Justice and a lawsuit from the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission that resulted in Goldman paying a $550 million settlement in July of 2010. Now, if you would like to really know what Scott Swift's association with this was and his relationship with John and himself, please go check down in the comment section. Because there are some things and some associations with certain people that you can't actually talk about openly on a video on TikTok. But that'll connect the dots with Mr. Scott Swift for you. But let's dig a little bit deeper. BlackRock acquired Merrill Lynch's investment manager division in 2006, like I just said, right, in exchange for a 49% ownership interest in the company. But the deal also gave Merrill Lynch a 49.5% stake in BlackRock. And as we know, the remainder of BlackRock is owned by institutional and individual investors, as well as BlackRock employees. And if Merrill Lynch just so happened to have a 49.5% stake in BlackRock, then why are none of their members on the board of BlackRock? I'm not going to confirm whether or not those members have any association with what I'm about to show you, but pretty sure the answer is obvious for you to figure out. Did you know through mergers, the oldest branch of the Bank of America franchise can be traced to 1784, when Massachusetts Bank was chartered, the first federally chartered joint stock-owned bank in the United States. Well, here's a little something about the Massachusetts Bank, right? The Bank of Boston traced its roots back to the Massachusetts Bank founded in 1784. It was only the second bank to receive a charter in the United States after the Bank of North America. The bank's charter was signed by John Hancock, and among its early account holders were such notable figures as Paul Revere, Samuel Adams, John Hancock, and Henry Knox. You know what's interesting about some of these names right here, right? I'll let you read this one for yourself. It's pretty interesting. I'm not going to lie to you. Can you see where I'm going with this right now? I'm sure everybody knows who they are, right? Just read this part right here, okay? Do me that favor. And as you can see, many of the United States founders, including who, and who. So this history goes back pretty damn far, with some pretty interesting roots, if I'd say. But see, in 2008, right, a lot of things changed. For example, Obama became president right in the middle of the financial crisis. And there's a lot more things I'd like to say out in the open on this video, but unfortunately I'll be issued a violation if I just so happen to say anything. But I'm pretty sure it's easy to connect the dots at this point. And if you're still with me at this point in this video, go check out the comment section and see why I specifically mentioned him. But boy, who doesn't just love being a Swiftie, right?
we ain't the same on the game. Hey, Donald Trump is your president, and if you like it or not, keep the energy you had with Barack, cause you know this Trump train don't stop.
Who's the worst celebrity like that you've been around and is like the most full of sin? I know no sin is greater, but like just was like, damn, this
Clive Davis. Devil incarnate. Clive Davis. Janis Joplin. He blackmailed Betty Wright so she wouldn't tell anybody that he Janis Joplin. He killed Whitney Houston.
The New World Order really consists of three aspects. There is a New World political system that everyone today is calling the New World Order. As well as that, there is an economic plan for the New World Order, and that is called the New World Economic Order. In addition to those two items, there's a third plan for religion. You see, the planners of the world know that men need a religion of some kind, even if it's a false one. So they have a plan to give us a new age world global occultic religion. So really there's three aspects to this New World Order. A New World Economic Order in which a computer chip will be injected into our hands or foreheads as a means to track, control, and identify us, and will also be used to make our purchases and scan at stores.
Well, they've already put the program in Los Angeles. In fact,
Right.
a trilateralist named Mayor Bradley, Uncle Tom Bradley, was responsible for putting this in dogs.
Right.
And your children will be considered like animals. And operating through the Council on Foreign
Right.
Relations, through the Trilateral
Right.
Commission, through the Club of Rome, through Global 2000, which wants to reduce the population of the planet by, 25%. 25, that's 1,250,000,000 people have to be exterminated by the year 2000.
Well, they can do that.
So
They have
essentially,
the technology.
this Illuminati then is the group of men who control not only all the money on the planet through all the world banks and the Federal Reserve and so on, but they control essentially all the governments. And so these men are planning to bring about a global form of government that's unique in all history. It's a total enslaving system of world communism and fascism, controlled by a hierarchy in Europe that Anthony calls what? The oligarchy.
Well, no, I call it the evil-archy.
The evil-archy.
The oligarchy of
Okay.
evil.
So these men are satanically inspired, and of course we get that term from the Bible, which means the devil. They're satanically inspired to bring about a global form of government to every nation on earth.
You see that vaccine? Big Brother's coming. Reveals secret plan to tag every man, woman, and child on the planet. Look at that, guys. Coded microchips implanted in every person in the country would tie all of us into a master computer that could track anyone down at any moment. And plans such system ready underway, whether you like it or not. Look at this. This was published back in 1991. Tiny microchips. It's telling it all in this book. Y'all think we bullshitting. Y'all thought we was lying. Conspiracy theories, right? 444. William Cooper. Copyrighted.
Diddy had been trying to get to Bieber for a minute, and his management was backing him off. But it wasn't until Usher took over management and had guardianship and gave temporary guardianship to the diddler for 48 hours. Think about that. He had already been to the hospital. That situation that Gene was talking about. And you still took Bieber there. But you got custody of him first. Diddy had already tried. They wouldn't let him. Actually, someone made reference to the fact that Diddy trying to get at Bieber the way he was trying to get at Bieber was looking a little predatory. And then Usher came in and discovered it and managed him and got custody of him and promised to look after him. And then he sent him to the diddler. Does that sound like a good guy?
It's horrible. It's horrible.
Does that sound like a good guy? Now that we know what Diddy's really like. They're not seeing what the intentions was in his heart when he took Justin Bieber there.
Oh.
Let's be honest. He took Justin Bieber there.
Do you know the story from 2001 when a young Ashton Kutcher got stood up on a date and then the next morning that girl had been murdered? And you remember how Kanye said that they couldn't control him because he ain't never killed no one? And listen, I'm not accusing Ashton Kutcher of murder or anything else. I'm just saying there might be a lot of skeletons in his closet. And this story is pretty weird. And it was a crazy unsolved murder case from the start. But then just last year, a new spicy detail dropped that is just tinfoil maximum. So on the morning of February 22nd, 2001, Ashley Ellerin's roommate got home from a night out and found her murdered, stabbed to death 47 times on the floor of the home that they shared. She called police, obviously, and they started investigating. And then they got a call from Ashton Kutcher freaking out because he said, my fingerprints are going to be on that door handle and I need to explain what happened. Remember, this is way back when he was just a few seasons into that 70s show and he had just starred in Dude, Where's My Car? And what Ashton told police at the time is that he had met her a week before at a party at her house. They'd been acquaintances and they decided to go on a date. They had a date scheduled for 8 p.m. on the 21st. They were going to go out to a Grammys after party, but then he went to his buddy, Christy Swanson's house to watch the Grammys. And he wound up watching the Grammys through 8 o'clock. And he called her and was like, hey, I'm going to be late at 8:24. She said no problem. She had actually just gotten out of the shower and she was going to blow dry her hair. She would speak to him soon. So then an hour and a half later at 10 p.m., he called her to let her know he was on his way, but she didn't pick up. So he redialed her a couple times. She didn't answer and he eventually showed up at 10:45. More than 2.5 hours after their date was supposed to start. He arrived at her house and knocked, but the door was locked. He couldn't get in. He tried the handle. And so he looked in the window and he says he saw what appeared to be a red wine stain on the carpet. I didn't really think anything of it, he said. And then he left, thinking he had been stood up. They never investigated him. He was not a suspect. They didn't take any DNA from him. The case went unsolved for 7 years. But it gets even weirder when you find out that the apartment manager of Ashley Ellerin's apartment, who is an aspiring actor, said he was having a sexual relationship with her, consensual. And he was in the house when Kutcher called. He said he was just hanging out with her from about 7 to 8 p.m. on the night when this chick is about to go to a Grammys after party with Ashton Kutcher. She's just hanging out with her apartment manager. And then at some point she went and took a shower while he was still there. And then, remember, she said she'd just gotten out of the shower and was going to blow dry her hair when Ashton Kutcher called her at 8:25 p.m. And then shortly after her shower, things turned physical. He doesn't, just one thing led to another and it was mutual. And then they, did the thing for about 15 minutes and then he left her apartment shortly after because he was expecting his own girlfriend to get home. He kind of got the phone call timing wrong. He said it was at 8:15 that the call happened. Then they were like, no, it was 8:24. And he's like, yeah, okay, I must have left later. He also had a fresh cut on his arm that detectives noted in a report. Never gets explained in the various reporting I could find. When the defense attorney questioned the apartment manager, he said, did you ever tell police that Miss Ellerin was trying to conquer you? Weird language. Just that she was very attracted to me and that she wanted me to be a part of her life. Also weird language. And then when the defense attorney asked if the apartment manager had ever spoken to his then girlfriend, now wife, about this infidelity, he says, we never discussed it. So you continue to lie to her all these years? No, Durbin replied quickly. But you never discussed it? But you didn't lie? But in all the looking I could do through all the different media reports that happened on this relatively high profile case, I didn't find anywhere that they mentioned taking DNA samples from the semen. And the case went unsolved for 7 years, despite Ashton Kutcher being there with a pretty shaky alibi as to why he wasn't there earlier when he said he would be there and only showed up later because he was hanging out at his Hollywood friend's house. And despite this other dude that had a key to the apartment having admitted to consensual sex with her right as she was supposed to be going on a date with this other actor, no DNA tests, no investigation apparently. And then 7 years later, in a different town, in a different state, this guy named Michael Gargiulo gets arrested for this other murder attempt, where in 2008, this woman was sleeping in her home and she was stabbed in her bed. She testified that she managed to fight off her attacker by grabbing the knife blade with both hands and was able to kick him off of her. And at some point in the struggle, he cut his wrist, leaving a trail of blood on her bed and in the alley on her way out. And as he ran out, she recalled the man saying, I'm sorry, as he ran away. Here is some MK Ultra tinfoil for you. The defense attorney for him claimed that Michael Gargiulo was in an amnestic state when he attacked Murphy and couldn't remember hurting her, and he had regained his senses while still in her apartment, hence the apology as he ran out. They apparently found a blue surgical booty with a few drops of Bruno's blood on it outside of her front door. And then they say that they found a bunch of other identical blue surgical booties in the suspect's attic. And so they caught him for this other murder in 2008. And then he started getting tied to all these other stabbings in other places nearby to where he had lived in the past, despite not actually having any forensic evidence tying him to the scenes other than circumstantial and witness testimony that came forward later. Michael Gargiulo actually used this as his defense. He basically gave up and said, I know the evidence is much stronger with Michelle Murphy. That's the elephant in the courtroom. You have to judge each case separately. So he basically said, yeah, we know he kind of did the last murder. What I'm saying in court today is that he's getting tied to all these other murders with no evidence. No physical evidence, no DNA, no fingerprints, no hair samples were found tying Gargiulo to the scene in the Ellerin case. And the case didn't even wrap up until 2019, when Ashton finally took the witness stand about this murder that happened all the way back in 2001. And then just last year, a really weird detail got dropped when Ashton and Mila's friend, Danny Masterson, got convicted of multiple rapes and sentenced to 30 years to life in prison. Remember that 70s show? And they wrote these amazing letters about how great of a guy Danny was trying to get his sentence reduced, along with like 30 other Hollywood people. The letters got leaked. There was huge backlash. And one of Danny's ex-girlfriends / rape victim posted to her Instagram story something super spicy. It has mostly been scrubbed from the web, but you can find all sorts of people that refer to it and they all agree on what it said. So this is a direct quote. Dear Ashton, I know the secrets your role model, Danny Masterson, keeps for you. Ones that would end you. Did you forget I was there? You were on speakerphone that night you called Danny on February 21st, 2001. I heard everything. I heard the plan. In my opinion, you're just as sick as your mentor. She alleges that Kutcher called his team of publicists and Danny Masterson on the night of that murder before calling police the next day. Why did Ashton Kutcher call his best friend Danny Masterson and his publicists the night that his date got murdered, or rather, the night that he got stood up by his date, and then later found out that she had been murdered. There's also conflicting evidence from Ellerin was attacked from behind and her throat was cut from left to right, indicating that her killer was left-handed and like got her all at once from behind, versus that there were numerous defensive wounds on her hands and her right forearm. Over the years, some people have speculated that Ashton did it. Other people have speculated that Ashton didn't do it, but he actually entered the home when he arrived there and saw the body and freaked out and left and didn't report it. Personally, I have my own theories, but I'm not going to go claiming them on the internet without any clear evidence. The only claim that I'm going to make is that Megan Fox deleted all of her Instagram posts. Usher tried to delete all of his Twitter posts, but he kind of failed at it. And all you other Hollywood criminals and psychos, you can try, but it's too late. It's all coming down around you. 2024 is the year that all lies will be exposed.
Is in Liz McGuire. She also has an album out. She's going to be in a movie called Cheaper by the Dozen. And she's one of the girls that we're all waiting for to turn 18, along with the Olsen twins. Any 15-year-old.
So how'd the citizen of the year with a nice house and a good family turn into an assassin living in a barn with more felonies than money in his bank account? Routh couldn't even afford child support. Primetime looked into it, and he was always behind on payments to his ex, always. She even agreed to terminate the support due to his financial situation. Routh sold his house in North Carolina for $174,000 and then was also living in an $800,000 bungalow in Hawaii. How does a man with no money for child support suddenly start living in a pricey house in Hawaii and afford flights to Taiwan, Turkey, Poland, Ukraine? His neighbors say sometimes they wouldn't see him for 3 years. The house in Hawaii Ryan was living with is connected to his fiancée, Kathleen Schaefer. Kathleen worked at Victoria's Secret. She's engaged to this guy who all of a sudden flies to Ukraine for months, and she's fine with that. As we reported last night, Routh spent 8 months sleeping in Ukrainian military barracks, and he was rubbing elbows with cold-blooded killers. Why would you leave your fiancée, who just lost her job at Victoria's Secret, to fly to Ukraine to recruit Muslim militants to fight Russia? And if you have $68 in your bank account, how are you spending thousands on airfare? How are you even feeding yourself in Ukraine? And everywhere he goes, he gets press, from the local papers to the New York Times to Newsweek. And every time he's arrested, he gets a pass. He's been charged with 100 different counts, and he's never served a day in jail. How's that possible? And after spending months with Ukrainian mobsters and scaring the bejesus out of everybody connected with him, he was flagged to the FBI, the State Department, and Homeland Security. But they all dropped the investigation. And he shows up to the president's golf course in a car with stolen plates and a loaded rifle with a scratched-off serial number. And no one's curious if Ryan Routh was sent here on a mission to kill. And no one's located his fiancée. It's not that hard to find somebody in Hawaii. And the Biden-Harris administration stonewalling. They won't even let Florida investigators into the crime scene.
We were rebuffed. Our investigators were rebuffed just going to the fence line outside of Trump International Golf Club in West Palm Beach. And so I think they've taken the position, they don't want the state of Florida to be involved in this.
What are they hiding? How do we not know there's more Ryan Rouths or Thomas Crooks out there? How do we not know?
And we are not going back. America is ready for a new way forward. We are not going back. We together will chart a new way forward. We're not going back. Together we'll move forward.
We're not going back. Forward together. Folks, this has literally been the slogan of the Communist Party for the past 10 years. I'm not even joking. If you go to the Communist Party USA's website, 3 years ago, Communist co-chair Rosanna Cambron literally wrote an article titled, "We're Not Going Back, Forward Together." Rosanna is a communist through and through, and she's unashamed of it.
That's how we communists work. This is how you build that movement that's going to be the massive movement that we need to topple capitalism.
It's not a coincidence that this just so happens to be Kamala Harris's campaign slogan, nor did she plagiarize it from the Communist Party. Communists have long acted as the kind of ideological undergird of the Democrat Party here in the United States, and Kamala Harris is just a continuation of that.
Together we'll move forward.
Again, for the past decade, communists have been giving speeches all over the country where they have the banner, "We're not going back," plastered behind them.
Chicago has produced more outstanding communist leaders maybe than any other place around in a lot of ways.
So this begs a question. Do you continue to pretend that Kamala Harris is not influenced by communist ideology, choosing instead to blindly accept the Marxian policies that she's pushing forward? Or do you choose not to be the idiot they think you are?
Did you hear the story about the kid who was outside the Democratic fundraiser selling kittens? When the people came out from the fundraiser, he was holding up the kittens and he was saying, "Buy a Democrat kitten." Well, a couple of weeks later, the Republicans held a fundraiser in the same place. And when they came out, there was the same kid with the kittens. And he said, "Buy a Republican kitten." One of the members of the press who'd seen him there 2 weeks before said, "Wait a minute, kid. You were selling these kittens the last time as Democrat kittens. How come the Republican kittens now?" Kid says,